Good evening, everyone. We're about a minute away from getting started, give or take, and excited. We didn't get a chance to do an NFL draft show last year, so we're going to see what we can do tonight. Um, try to make up for lost time a little bit. So give us about one more minute, and we'll be getting started. NFL Draft Show 2022 on Around the ATL. Getting started soon.
One minute until showtime. Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chris on IMTN Worldwide Radio, and this is Around the ATL. This is our 2022 NFL Draft Show. Can't wait to get started. It's been a long off season. It's been a very interesting off season, to say the least. And we still might have some surprises tomorrow night. You never know. 646-652-4479 is the phone number. So before we get started, now, I'm going to do an abbreviated version of what I used to do as far as intros, because tonight we're just talking football for the most part for 2 hours. So shout out to Atlanta Bird Gang, Dirty Bird Nation, Falcons Nation on Facebook, some of the Falcons football groups that are really popular out there. Also the New Pack City, even though that's a Hawks group, they know about me. They know who I am. So welcome to those who might be watching and listening in later on. I actually know somebody who's at work is going to try to call in. So I already got a heads up on that already. Also, shout out to the Originator brand. So tonight, this is what I was going to do. I was going to have my Falcons hat, and I was going to have a white shirt, and I was going to have a black tie, kind of have some of the Falcons colors on. But then I was like, no, not feeling great, so I don't know if I could do a long sleeve shirt for 2 hours. So I said, let me throw on a t-shirt. So just to kind of get some good vibes in, I have a real cool shirt from the Originative brand on Instagram. Let me go ahead and pull that up real quick for y'all. If you want something custom and Atlanta-centric in regards to sports, make sure you go to the Originative brand on Instagram. Hit up Jamal Price, let him know Around the ATL sent you. But this is my Braves championship shirt, if you can see it. It's really cool. Said I was going to wear it. So it got a little championship vibe going for our Falcons tonight. See if we can have the best draft ever, because that's basically what we're going to have to try to get all this stuff worked out with this off season that we are having. 646-652-4479. And we are waiting for our co-host, and I will be waiting for him to join us in a moment. So some of the things that we're going to talk about, I guess I can do this real quick. So first and foremost, we can chat on the following subjects. What will be the impact of Matt Ryan not being here? It's kind of obvious. He's not here anymore, right? So what will be the impact? Who is the possible quarterback of the future for the Falcons? Now, myself, I'm going ahead and say it. I didn't even look at quarterback tonight because I don't feel that at the 8th spot we should do it, because we just have too many other holes to fill at the end of the day for us to really go that route. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. I say nay to that. All right. So another topic we can talk about tonight, if I can find it, let's see. And there we go. I think this is it. What do you think about the free agents that the Falcons signed? Okay, because we did sign some people to fill in some gaps, some holes, some needs. And will these free agents basically affect the draft overall? So those are some questions that we can, tackle. Oh, actually, there's one more. Almost forgot. How will a second year of Dean Pease play into this year's draft? Remember, one of the things he said last year was he just doesn't have the pieces to throw out his whole defensive scheme like he would want to. So can that, play a part as far as who we're actually going to draft? And I guess the most important one, at number 8, who do you get? So that being said, let's go ahead and bring in our co-host. Mr. Jordan Jackson is in the house. Let's get him involved. Good evening, sir. How you doing tonight? Uh-oh. I think you're on mute.
Okay, here we go. I think we should be good now. What's going on, Chris, man? I'm doing all right. Just a little tired, man. Been ripping and running, not to mention the mental anguish from certain debacles that's been taking place.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So,
actually, I just want to be noted, and hopefully nobody takes offense to the old symbol, but I am wearing a hat of a champion right here. I just want that point to be noted.
So I'm gonna have to do this then. There we go. So because we gotta try to come up. I'm trying to come up with everything I can. Here we go. Baby. Thanks, Chauncey. I'm trying to erase everything that I can as far as what has transpired. So we might broach it. I'm not going to promise anything. I kind of told him that we weren't before you came on. 646-652.
My apologies.
Definitely going to be a Falcon-centric show as much as possible, but hey, we'll see. But Jordan, what I was doing was kind of going over some of the possible topics we could go over. One of them you can see right there, number 8. Who do you get? What will be the impact of Matt Ryan not being here? Will the Falcons be able to build a contender? And let's see. Uh-oh, that's the wrong one. Those are just a few. We can get into that. Who do you think? What do you think about the free agents that the Falcons signed? And how will a second year of Dean Pease play into the draft? So those are just a few topics we can kind of delve into. But what I want to do first is I kind of want to talk about the free agents part, because, of course, this offseason has been changed with the taking away of Matt Ryan, obviously, right? So what we thought we were going to be doing as far as trying to continue improving the team from a year ago and a year ago before that, and the win total and everything, and still trying to piece things around to where we can have a competitive team, that whole essence was taken away with Matt being gone. So now it's a matter of we really are piecing things together as we go, basically. So I do want to kind of talk about the free agents a little bit. So let me see if I can find that real quick. There we go. So here are some of the free agents, okay, that we signed. So of course we had to get a quarterback. Okay, so we got Marcus Mariota or Mariota, whatever the pronunciation when he's here.
Oh, Mariota, yeah.
Gracious, I'll tell you what. All right, so we also at tight end we have Anthony Fursker. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I'm not sure. We got Rashaan Evans at linebacker, Lorenzo Carter as an edge rusher. We re-signed Cordell Patterson because he said he wanted to be here. We got Casey Hayward Jr. at cornerback. We re-signed Eric Harris, and we have Damian Williams as a running back. Now, outside looking in, they might not look like, the world beater free agents that you think you would want to get, but per our situation money-wise and piecing together things and whatnot, we're going to find out value-wise. First of all, you always never underestimate the passion of a player as far as wanting to prove something, obviously, right? But for the needs analysis part of it, do some of these players actually fill a hole or a gap that we really needed to be able to fill, and will they be able to contribute? So out of those free agents right off the bat, Jordan, what do you think about any of them? We already know what CP can bring to the table. We already know what he's ready to do, but how about some of the other ones? Are any of them standing out to you as far as, okay, this position right here definitely is going to help us out for 2022?
The first one that comes to mind is Mr. Casey Hayward, veteran cornerback, definitely has good instincts, has good technique, has a nose for the football. I think he'll help a lot just for the simple fact that, for one, who he's replacing. Okay, Fabian Moreau was not a very good football player. But at the same time, A.J. Terrell is an outstanding football player. When you have those two guys coupled with Mr. Oliver coming back next season, who was playing very well prior to injury, and he was primarily playing the slot cornerback role. So it works out perfectly where you have Hayward and Terrell on the outside and have Oliver playing the slot role. That in itself, we always talk about how pass rush and coverage go hand in hand. So that in itself, having three guys that you trust a little bit more to cover should definitely help, especially, like I said, compared to what we had going on last year, and then particularly the last half of last year when Oliver and some of the other guys went down. The other guy I'm looking at is Rashaan Evans, linebacker, former University of Alabama Crimson Tide player. That team that we whooped, win a national championship. But he was a former high first-round draft pick. Trying to see if I could look up some of his numbers from college. That's what I was doing here. But he's 6'3", 234-pound linebacker. Not a pass rush linebacker, more of your run-stuffing linebacker, more of your guy in our 3-4 defense that would play one of the two middle backer spots, which is important because we lost Foye Aluakon. And that's not to say that I'm expecting Rashaan Evans to come right in and start, because I do think Mikael Walker, who's been with the organization a couple of years now, draft pick we've been grooming, he's shown flashes when he's got snaps on the field. So I think he probably has the inside track to start next to Debo. But should he falter, or should either one of those two guys get injured, and even with both of them healthy, in a situation where it's a goal line situation, a run stuffing situation, I think we could see Evans make an impact. So among all the guys we signed, those would be my top two.
Okay. Well, definitely the combination of Haywood, Oliver, and AJ is going to make a difference just on the defensive side because of scheme. It's less people wide, doggone open now. So that's going to give that whatever we have on pass rush, again, just another second to maybe not let that quarterback make eggs and bacon and pecan waffles like I got from Waffle House the other night. So that's going to be something right there for sure. Myself, I feel that we're going to have to see on the running back side, with Patterson coming back. I'm not sure what Damian Williams will bring to the table, but this is who we have right now as far as the running back core. We have Mike Davis still on the roster, Caleb Huntley. We have Ollison still, Patterson we just mentioned, and also Damian Williams. Okay, so if we made no draft picks at running back, how comfortable are we going into this season with this is our running game right now? Now, for most part, I believe everybody kind of feels that Mike Davis is probably not going to be on the roster probably too much longer. I don't know. He's still there. It's the day before the draft, and he's still on the roster. I don't know. But I just don't think he lends any value. So, with on the free agent side, Patterson, are we going to have him exclusively as the running back getting majority of the snaps, or are we going to still play him as, X-Man, so to speak, and then with Damian being another free agent that we signed, what does he bring to the table? And really what it comes down to is who's fighting for what spots, because it's almost as if, that's a lot of running backs as it is. And do we really have running backs that, again, we feel like can go out there and get us 5 yards a carry as often as we really need, rather than 2.2 yards a carry, which is what we were, pretty much used to. Because with that being said, what do we do with the draft? And that's what we'll be talking about in a second. So that's a little bit from just me right now, because on the tight end side, I won't put too much into that right now. Lorenzo Carter, I know he did have some sacks, and as far as this, a possible fill-in and just depth, I can see that possibly as far as helping us out a little bit. Eric Harris being at safety this year, who knows? Again,
that's what I was going to go, Chris, though, was going to mention Lorenzo Carter, the Georgia Bulldog. He had 4 sacks in his last 5 games, which could potentially signal a breakout at the end of his tenure there with the Giants. Now, if he's over there and he's the only pass rusher added, I think it'd be much harder for him to have an impact. If defenses say, well, he's probably the best they got, so let's focus on chipping him and pay some attention to him. But I think if we get a pass rusher in the draft, someone that, draws some level of attention, I think Lorenzo Carter could be a very good compliment. And you mentioned Anthony Fersker earlier, the former Tennessee Titans tight end. I do think he'll have a role on this football team with the retirement of Lee Smith, our number 2, basically our number, well, you could say he was number 3 tight end last year, but he was basically the main blocking tight end. But he also caught a couple touchdowns. So with Lee Smith retiring, I think you will see Fersker have a role, given that he's familiar. Arthur Smith is familiar with him, and he's familiar with Arthur Smith, and he is a guy who can, catch some balls for you around the red zone, particularly with a lot of times, that number 2 tight end, they often don't get a lot of attention. The next day, they're catching a touchdown in the flat or being hit wide open in the back of the end zone on a play fake.
Yeah. 646-652-4479. Let's check, make sure we don't have any callers yet. All right, cool. So let's get into it a little bit now. So how will a second year of Dean Pease play into the draft? So we're going to start talking on the defensive side a little bit. We can go on the offensive side and talk about the disappearance of Matt Ryan from the team and everything a little bit later. But just for starters, how will that second year of Dean Pease play into the draft? What do you think, Jordan?
I just think that Terry Fontenot will continue to try to bring in more of the style players that Dean Pease likes. Whether that be someone who can rush the passer, so to add to his blitz packages, because it makes the blitz packages even better when you got a team double teaming a guy on the edge, and so you can send a blitzer right in behind him oftentimes. He can get freed up. I think you'll see more versatile coverage type guys, both in the secondary as well as at the linebacker position, possibly even one more coverage type linebacker being targeted later rounds, because I think one of the reasons why Mr. P said he couldn't completely unleash his defense is the fact that he did not fully trust the guys covering. And he felt that if he would have sent the house and have, cover zero with no kind of safety over the top, then we would have just been getting toasted all day long. And so I think
this is why we never gave up any long plays all year too.
Right. We didn't give up as many long plays, but it was more because Pease was being conservative. And, and Pease is the type of guy, he'll rather give up. I mean, obviously you never want to give up a long play, but he knows if you play very aggressive, it's going to happen here and there. But we only had, if I'm not mistaken, what was it, 18 quarterback sacks total last year, Chris? And that's not going to cut it. That's historically awful. It's bad. And like I said, the coverage will help that, but you also got to get more guys that can get there and get home. And I think if you have more guys like that, you'll see Dean Pease step up his aggressiveness more and more.
Great points. I think that we're at that point where we need to find out what he's still here. He ain't retired. So he's taking this real serious. And again, he has to play with what he got. Right? It's just like anybody else. But I feel that we did make some leaps and some turns from one season ago till last year immediately. And I feel that as we continue to get pieces, I think it'll get even better. It'll just be a matter of now the person at the top has changed. So that being said, number 8, who to get? You got first crack at it.
Oh, man. I mean, that's a difficult question, obviously, because when you're picking at number 8, you don't know exactly who's going to be there. So, I mean, honestly, I have, and it really doesn't make any sense, but I guess just in case something happens and, somebody, decide to get arrested the night before the draft or something crazy like that. You know what I mean? I got 9 guys, basically, that I would be okay with the Falcons taking with 8 picks. But instead of going through all 9 guys, I'll just start with a couple of guys that I don't want the Falcons to take at number 8.
Okay, that's fair.
One in particular, and this is not going to be popular with a lot of people, but it's the safety, and he's from the Atlanta area, from Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton. And it's not because I don't think he's a good football player. I mean, some places have him graded as one of the higher graded football players in this entire draft. But number 1, we just drafted a safety in the second round of Richie Grant last year. Now, he's more of your coverage type safety that plays deep more. Hamilton is versatile. He could do both. But if you got one that's deep, that means when you want to bring one up at the line of scrimmage, it's going to be Hamilton if you had him. But the problem with that is when you look at the career of guys that play that position, particularly the safety, that plays in the box a lot, but also some of the guys that drop back. Everybody from Bob Sanders to what's my guy's name from Seattle? I don't know. Oh gosh, I can't call it Earl Thomas. You're seeing a lot of those guys' careers be quite short because of the violent style of football they play. And I give you 2 examples right here with Atlanta. He's still playing, but Keanu Neal did not last here very long at all. And it wasn't because he couldn't play football. It was because he played so violently, he was always banging himself up while knocking other people out in the process. Yeah. And all I got to do is go back one more starting safety before him. Willie Moe, he was always ready until he wasn't. You know what I mean? And it was due to injury. When he wasn't ready, that's why he wasn't, because injuries took their toll on him. So that would be the first guy I would say that I really prefer is not to take in the draft. Other than that, there's only one quarterback that I would like to take. And so I'll get into that in a minute. But quarterback isn't my favorite thing to take in this draft, but there's one I wouldn't be upset with. I'll put it that way. And the rest, I wouldn't want the Falcons to go there. And the other thing I do not want to take at number 8 is a wide receiver, period. Because, yeah, we need receivers. I understand. We got the brother version of Pete Rose on our team who was suspended for a whole season. But I just feel like we have built on a finesse style for too many years. We prioritize positions like wide receiver, trading up to get guys and all of that. Not to say that all those moves were bad, but we need to build from the inside out for a change. We need to fortify the trenches. So that's why I would not want to take a wide receiver, sir.
646-652-4479. So I'm going to go the opposite way as far as how you kind of led off there, because like you said, we have we have no idea who's going to be there at the end of the day by the time 8th comes, but we know where our needs are. Okay, so it'll get down to if they're there, we need to seriously consider it. So I feel that our biggest need is the pass rush. You mentioned it earlier, 18 sacks. Heck, I could have got 5 sacks myself. Let them stop. So at a certain point, I'm just throwing that out there, everybody. Sign me, somebody. So here's why I feel that, and just as me going through it and changing my mind a few times and then kind of wishing on a star type of a deal, right? So I have kind of come up with, if we keep the number 8 pick, let's just throw that out there, mess up everything in the world. I think Kayvon from Oregon, I feel is going to end up being the guy. I feel that. Or because you know what we were talking about before, UGA. Actually, let's do this better. Because they are the national champions as of right now, right?
They are.
I gotta get a UGA hat. So here's the deal. If he's available, if he's there, I wouldn't be mad if we got Trayvon.
I just don't think he's going to be there.
I know, but if it happens, because you never know, people mess up stuff at the top sometimes. They be like, hey, let's get this guy who should be a 3rd round pick and make him our 5th pick. Things happen, right? Dark horse, Josh Pascal from Kentucky. Okay. As far as edge rusher at that 8th spot. Now, again, staying on the defensive side of things, again, going on the UGA side of things, on the defensive tackle portion, if we were to go there. Now this is only because I just feel that if you had Grady and Jordan Davis, you can't double team everybody. And if you tried to, that's 4 players for 2, right? Somebody is not blocking somebody at that point. So it wouldn't almost matter who your edge rusher is, or even in the middle, or a linebacker, somebody's getting to the quarterback, right? So I kind of would like that if we could, because Jordan Davis is going to be in the 1st round, but we only have 1 pick in the 1st round, right? So I don't know if you would pick him as high as 8th necessarily, but I'm just saying, just throwing it out there as far as that goes. So those are at like the 8th spot where I'm kind of leaning towards, because all the other spots I feel we can go a little bit lower and get some of the other players. And again, I guess we could go, position by position. Actually, I kind of planned that. I don't know how much detail you have, so let's go ahead and just throw this up here real quick for you to maybe we can talk about it a little bit more in detail. There we go. Drafting pass rushers. So what do you think about, either Trayvon or Thibodeau or any others that you thought of as far as possibly, because again, 18 sacks. We need somebody who can get 10 sacks a year. When was the last time we had an edge rusher get 10 sacks a year bona fide? Like he was a threat. Like in the last, I don't know, decade, really.
With the exception of the fluke year by Mr. Beasley, it's been since John Abraham, since we've had a guy that can consistently post 10 sacks a year or close to it. And, that's just not going to get it done. I agree with you. As far as Trayvon Walker goes, if somehow he's there at number 8, what you do is you knock everybody you can out of the way on the way running that card up at the commission. I'm sorry, if one of the old legends is there waiting to announce a pick, he got to get put on the floor. What I mean? You got to get that card up there before somebody change their mind. You know what I mean? But I just don't think he's going to be there. Other reason why I didn't want to mention too much about Aiden Hutchinson of Michigan, I don't think he's going to be there either. In fact, both of those guys are the top candidates. But to back up to Trayvon one time, it's like his situation is so intriguing to me because, he had very good production last year, and that was his first year really having, a 6.5 sack type year or what have you, because Georgia just rotates so many different guys in. And it's like he could possibly go number 1 in the NFL draft. And I understand it. I mean, when you watch him, his moves, the way he can get off the ball, he's got power moves. He's got speed, moves, quick. I mean, that he's got that quick short area quickness too, quick first step burst. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you can make a case oftentimes that he may have been the 3rd best defensive lineman on the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah.
With Jordan Davis, who you mentioned, also along with Jalen Carter, who is still at UGA, number 88, the defensive end for the Dogs, and who I also believe will be a top 5 draft pick, when he comes out in the NFL draft. So it's quite interesting. But the more I watched him on film and watched, him in the Senior Bowl practices, how quick he's beating this guy reminds me of former Chicago Bear Richard Dent. That's who he reminds me of. That's my NFL comparison for Trayvon Walker. So I absolutely love to have him. I just don't think he'll be there. If Kevon Thibodeau is there, I'm with you. Let's go ahead and take him if he's there. But it's very possible that there could be 3 pass rushers to go before we pick. And so my sleeper in that regard would be a former Georgia Bulldog, and that's Jermaine Johnson, who transferred from the University of Georgia to Florida State. He more of a pass rush type. He could play defensive end. He could play the stand-up outside rush linebacker like in our defense. 6'5", 254 pounds. Just a very good athlete. Played very well in that Georgia rotation when he was there, but he wanted, that opportunity to shine on his own. And I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers because I don't want to tell anybody wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, he finished with around 11 and a half sacks last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
I'll have that number for you just here in a second. But that is my pass rusher. If the other 3, Walker, Hutchinson, Thibodeau is gone. And in fact, they have a chance. They have the benefit when it comes to our brass of seeing some things that we can't see. For example, you and I don't get the opportunity to sit down and look these prospects in the eye, shake their hand, and see what they're really like. If they actually like Johnson better and say they took him and Thibodeau was there, I wouldn't be, up in arms about it. You know what I mean? Because the man is a good player. Okay, I was absolutely correct. He had 33 solo tackles, 37 assists for a total of 70 tackles, 17 and a half tackles for loss, and 11 and a half sacks on the season.
That's impressive right there.
Yes, sir. So as far as pass rushers go, I really don't see any need to go outside of the guys' names that we've mentioned. I think they'll be there. The other guy who a lot of people like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to see if I can pronounce his name correctly. But the guy out of Penn State, George. Hold on, I'm gonna get it. George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis.
I saw him too.
Yeah, he's another guy that he's a bigger pass rusher. I think he's gonna be a very good guy to set the edge in the run game, but he may be a guy that can get to the quarterback as well. So he would be the last name that I think would even be worth mentioning as far as when you talk about the 8th spot.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to, again, also I wanted to lead off with it because, again, we are in the need business in that particular position. And that can, again, when you look at all the other teams, when they have somebody or somebodies, plural, that they can affect that part of the game, that team is successful over a period of time. And again, like you said, eventually we have to stop doing what we were doing as far as building a team and do like the other successful teams. I just don't know how you let 20 years go by and just say we're just going to kind of just do it kind of just any old kind of way, because there's somebody who has a little bit of an idea about how that can work. I'm going to go ahead and do it because I hadn't done it in a while.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Playoffs?
Uh-oh.
Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
I'm trying to tell you, Coach Moore. I'm trying to tell you. 646-652-4479. So I kind of already let my cat out the bag as far as who I would want. Do you think that Jordan might be available at the 11th pick in the second round, which is 43 overall? Do you think that somehow or another all kinds of crazy things can happen in that end of that first round and maybe he can bump to where he could even possibly be there in our first pick of the second round?
I don't. Now, it is possible, I think, that you would see him slide, maybe into the later 20s. I expect him to go up in the teens somewhere, to be honest with you.
Really? Okay. Wow.
15, 16, 17, 18. But not every team values, what a true nose tackle type guy can bring. Even though Jordan is very athletic for his size. I mean, let's get that straight. And he can get to the passer at times. But his main thing is going to be run defense, being just that big anchor in the middle. And, you talked about a double team and, how you can't double team everybody. And the fact is that man, even as a rookie, he is going to command a double team. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Well, somebody just has that much size and that much power, you have to double team that guy. And when you do, so whoever drafts Jordan Davis, they'll be able to put them in the middle of their defense, and they're not going to have to really be super concerned about their run defense as a whole, for the next 8 to 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was hoping that somebody didn't get suspended, Pete didn't get suspended for gambling, and we could actually trade him and get another pick up in the mid, first round. And if that was the case, that would have been the Jordan Davis pick for me for certain.
Do you let me interject real quick. Do you think since we got those 2 six round picks that those couldn't be used to bump a little bit and to say, hey, you don't really need that position. Let's kind of make a swap. You think maybe even throw in some money or a player or something like that? You think that's even possible, to kind of move up a little bit?
We rarely see a whole lot of players move on draft night, but I guess it's possible. I think if you see him slide, into the later part of the first round, then I think it becomes easier to move up from early second round to grab him late first round. Now, it's going to probably cost you more than a 6th round.
I was going to say, I thought about when I said it, we're going to have to probably sacrifice, a third, maybe even one of the 2s that we got.
Maybe a few of the 2. You trade your 2, and then maybe something else, a 3rd or 4th, to move up from late first to early second. But I definitely think that's a possibility. And, just to give the numbers on Jordan Davis, he's 6'6" and 340 pounds, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. But yet he runs. I mean, he ran better than a lot of quarterbacks ran when it comes to the 40-yard dash. So definitely a great athlete. And the other thing about him, he is just a great guy too. I mean, just a likable guy. Never any character issues, no concerns whatsoever at UGA. And I tell you, man,
that's why I'm pushing for. That's why you see, that's all I'm concentrating on, because I'm looking at everything for the next 15 years, possibly, for him to be here still after winning a national championship. That would be just the icing on the cake kind of a deal, and he could be part of this new regime that's coming in. And part of that new team to be like, this is how it's going to be from now on, type of a deal. So, but let me ask you this. Pie in the sky, possibly for Jordan, are there any other tackles that you think we could be looking at going into that second round, possibly? Because the next position I'm going to be talking about is linebacker. But are there any tackles out there besides him that if we could get them, it'd be worth it to try to get them?
Yeah, I have a couple tackles I like. And, normally, I'm always objective. Don't get it wrong. Normally people would call me a homer for this, but you really can't, because we're just putting that much talent into the NFL draft this year. And so my number 2 tackle is a different style of a defensive tackle, more of your penetrating, shoot the gaps, get, type defensive tackle, and that's Devontae Wyatt out of the University of Georgia.
Actually, I have his name down too.
Yeah, 6'2", 307 pounds. Ran the 40-yard dash and a 4.7 40-yard dash. Was one of the better players in the Senior Bowl down there in the week in Mobile. And like I said, you really can't take too much into account UGA players' numbers as far as defensive linemen because we take so many out. But he did have a couple sacks, 2.5 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss. And he has that quick twitch ability too, not as so much as Trayvon Walker does, but he moves very well for a man over 300 pounds, and he's, like I said, more of a guy who can take on come and go between two blockers and get through and make a stop in the backfield as opposed to just being strictly a run stuffer.
You finished 646-652-4479. Go ahead, Jordan.
And another guy, if you're looking for more of a run stuffing, anchor type guy, would be Travis Jones out of UConn. Looking at him as more of a probably 3rd round pick for us. If we had, I can't remember what the 2nd round pick is, because we do have 2. Maybe the later 2nd round pick, or 3rd round pick. If we hadn't already addressed this position. 6'4", 326 pounds. A very good run stuffer, but also able to get to the quarterback a little bit. Had 4.5 sacks, last year from the defensive tackle position. 8 tackles for a loss, 47 overall tackles. So he'd be another guy I'd be looking at, 2nd round, 2nd, 3rd roundish. And I think if you talk about a guy who possibly should be able to get to the quarterback would be the Marvin Lill out of Texas A&M. 6'4", 290 pounds. Didn't run a really fast 40 at 5 seconds, but I mean, when you look at the numbers he put up in the SEC, because Texas A&M is an SEC school, he had 8.5 sacks and 14 tackles for a loss. Like I said, definitely more of a penetrating, gap shooting type guy, but he's a guy that if you brought him in on 3rd down and had him rushing next to Grady, he's gonna have a problem trying to contain both of those guys coming from the middle.
It's gonna be interesting, and again, that's why I mentioned earlier as far as Dean Pease, as far as scheme goes, because the other part of this is going to be coaching, and again, putting people in the best position to succeed, and then for that player to be able to get to the point where he can be available because he knows what he's doing on that field, because that's where I'm thinking about some of the free agents. That's why I mentioned that earlier as well. Some of these guys might get beat out by some of the rookies, possibly. You never know. Again, this is going to be a competition type of a season for sure. This is a team where we've started seeing it last year where, if you're not going to really perform, if we have an alternative, they're probably going to play. It was never like that before. Now some positions they had to kind of be there because we didn't have no alternatives and we had to just sit and watch it. But in other positions, no. If you weren't going to play right and you couldn't play, somebody else is going to get in there. So I feel that this is going to be definitely that off season where you're going to see mad competition in regards to certain positions. So I think it's going to be fun because we need it at this point, right? 646-652-4479. Let's talk about linebackers. Now, of course, I'm not even going to play the music anymore. Nakobe Green, intelligence, off the scale, IQ. They keep talking about, man, it'll be a perfect match if he can get on the Patriots somehow with Bill Belichick. But I want him here somehow. He'd be an instant impact. He can cover in space. He can defend against the run. He can go sideline to sideline, screens, jet sweeps, the whole 9 yards. And I feel that he would definitely be there in the 2nd round, and we have 2 picks there. So what do you think, Jordan? Do you think that's a possibility that we could snag Dean?
I just don't know, because the thing about Nakobe Dean, I have heard some people, some of these, so-called draft experts knock him, saying that he's not, extremely fast and that he's not, big enough or whatever. But I mean, 5'11", 225 pounds, so he's not huge. 4'5", 940, that's not slow. You know what I mean? But you said it all when it comes to Nakobe Dean. It's the instincts. It's the play recognition. It doesn't make no difference how fast you are, Duke Riley, if you're running fast the opposite direction that you're supposed to be going. You know what I mean? When you have a guy who can recognize, see what the offense is trying to do, kind of sift through all of the different motions and fakes that they're throwing at you, trying to throw you off, when he can recognize exactly what they're doing and boom, take right off and go get the guy, that's very valuable skill to have as a linebacker. Now, the one area that you didn't hit, because you hit almost every area as far as the things he's good at, is this guy is one of the best blitzing linebackers that I have seen in a long time. I mean, when Georgia would run that double gap, A-gap blitz with those two linebackers, I mean, Dean was getting home all the time, forcing errant throws and what have you. So I think that, he'll be an outstanding pick. I don't know if he'll make it to the second round or not, because while some are knocking him, and man, I wish I knew right on top of my head which scout it was, and maybe Daniel Jeremiah or expert type guy. There's one of them on Twitter that's saying, look, y'all can knock this guy for his raw speed, his size. He was like, this guy's going to be a great football player, and that's a hill that I'm willing to die on. I mean, he's a national guy tweeting this out. And I'm the same way. If you ask me, out of all the UGA players, which one is the most safest guy to pick, the one that's going to be successful for sure. For me, it'd be Nakobe Dean. Yeah. I just think he's that good of a football player. And so I find it hard to believe that someone, won't see that as well and go ahead and take him, late first round. Because, like you say, these organizations, like, with guys like Bill Belichick, guys like the Steelers always seem to value them type of guys, no matter how many they already have. Organizations like the Ravens always seem to value these type of football players. I'd be shocked if he gets to the second round, but I tell you the same thing about that as I said about Walker in the first round. If he does, all the old cats better get out of the way, because we run into the podium with this card.
Yeah, it's going to be again. If there was ever going to be a season where the Atlanta Falcons that play in the state of Georgia draft actually good UGA players, and in this case, they're champion players, this will be the season to do it. So we're going to find out, because, again, they're going to be hard-pressed to try to have to explain how come they didn't draft none of those guys, because that's what's going to happen. And I don't know how they will be able to explain it, but it'll be real interesting. Are there any other linebackers, Jordan, before we go to the next category, besides Dean, obviously, that kind of stand out to say it'll definitely be worth a pick to, because, again, with Michael Walker and I'm forgetting person real quick.
Debo.
Rashaan Evans, Debo being there. I still say you need to draft somebody just for the fact that you lost Foye, and I just think you need to maybe try to get the heir apparent. And because that position is there and plentiful, I think you need to make that move. But is there another linebacker that you see out there that you think would be viable for us?
I do. I see a few, actually. Devin Lloyd out of Utah is a very good football player. He had 8 sacks on the year and 24 tackles for a loss, 106 total tackles for the Utes last season. And I'm going to do it again. Quay Walker, okay, 6'4", 240-pound linebacker from the University of Georgia. 4'5", 240, 40 time. He had 6 tackles for a loss, a sack and a half, and 53 tackles overall last year. And yet another guy I like is Channing Tyndall from the University of Georgia. So Georgia has so much talent in this particular draft. In fact, when I look at one particular board, because I'm going back and forth, on my notes as well as just looking at what some of the other guys grade these players. When I look at one particular board, they have Dean graded as the first linebacker, and then they also have Georgia Bulldogs as they have Devin Lloyd as the second linebacker, then Christian Harris, a guy out of Alabama, another guy who's very good as third, but then they have Walker fourth and Tyndall fifth. You know what I mean? So 3 Georgia Bulldogs in the top 5 graded linebackers in this draft. And Chris, is to the point, man, to be honest with you, I don't advocate just picking UGA players just because they went to UGA. They have to be the right talent. They have to be the right fit for what you're doing. But the style of defense Georgia plays is pretty much the same style of defense we play here in Atlanta. And I'm to the point now, because there are also offensive players we could use as well, that if Terry Fontenot doesn't get me at least 2 Georgia Bulldogs with all the picks we have in this draft, I'm going to be quite disappointed in that, sir.
Going to be playing that all season at this point. 646-652-4479. I definitely concur in regards to that. We have to get a few. I mean, even if they didn't win the national championship, we need to be able to pick a couple of guys, from that roster of really, 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 really good players. So let's talk corners. So we have AJ, and we know we got Casey, and we know we have Oliver. Is it possible that we still would go and look at the draft in regards to getting a cornerback? Because look at who we have after that. Because here's what we have on the roster as of the moment. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick.
And why are you pulling that up real quick? Because I gave stats for just about everybody but N'Kobe when I was talking about linebackers. So total, N'Kobe Dean finished with 72 tackles, 36 of those solo, 10.5 tackles for a loss, and 6 sacks. And like I said, it's not like he's a rush linebacker. He's a sideline to sideline linebacker, but the 6 sacks just gives credit to how good of a blitzer he really is. And keep in mind when I mention these stats, as always, UGA rotates so many defensive players up front that Georgia's guys aren't playing near as many snaps as a guy from Utah, for example, would probably play.
Exactly. Here's who we have so far. Now, I don't know if this. I guess it's correct because it's on the website for the Atlanta Falcons. So we have Darren Hall, Casey Hayward, Oliver, Tease Tabor, AJ Terrell, Avery Williams, D. Alford, Cornell Armstrong, Corey Ballantyne, Mike Ford, Luther Kirk, Lafayette Pitts, Kendall Sheffield is still on. Oh, let me stop before I get in trouble. And then at safety, we know we have a couple of people because we just mentioned them earlier, but I'm scrolling down real quick. So give me a second. There we go. Richie Grant, who we drafted last year. Damian Williams. No, that's the running back. I'm sorry. Eric Harris. That's who I was talking about. Jalen Hawkins as well. Mm-hmm. So with all of that, and some of those safeties might be more on the corner side of things. Actually, we have a lot of players there. I don't think all of them will make the roster as well. So do we go out and say, okay, let's see what comes to us as far as possible? Or I would even say this, going back to who you draft at 8, do you go after one of the top corners in college football at the 8th spot? Rather than pass rusher? Is that even possible? Because then at that point, you're talking about folks like Sauce Gardner or a couple of other people. So
Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU.
That's who I was thinking about. And there's some late bloomers, I guess you could say, in Elam from Florida, even Booth from Clemson. They'll probably be in another round. Tarek Woolen I got in the 3rd round as far as a cornerback, just in general, because I want to talk corners. But is it even possible that we might go as high as 8 to get a corner?
I think it is possible, Chris, because, we talked about a scenario where possibly 3 pass rushers could come off the board, before we even pick. And so let's say, if, the top 3, Walker, Hutchinson, as well as Thibodeau comes off, and they may not like a Jermaine Johnson, as much as they like the corner overall on their board, then I think in that scenario, you do go corner. And because as much as I think Mr. Casey Hayward was a solid signing, he's still only here on a 1-year deal. So I don't think you would let that, prevent you from taking the corner. And so, yeah, if you feel like the best football player there is 8, then you take a corner. And obviously I don't think that, personally now, another guy that's rated pretty high is Trent McDuffie out of Washington, 5'9", 195 pounds. I think he will probably go in the 1st round. but I don't think he's a top 8 type corner. And so if you do that, it's going to be one or two guys. It's going to be Mr. Ahmad Sauce Gardner, 6'3", 200-pound corner, long arms, able to play press. He's fast, but he also has ball skills. The only thing I worry about with Gardner, he also he did have 3 interceptions in each one of his 3 seasons at Cincinnati, which isn't bad because oftentimes people avoid, the better corner on a team like that. But one thing about him that I worry about him, though, early in his career is he does have a tendency to be a little handsy and grab a little bit. And to be honest with you, you were running down names on that roster, and I think you said like D offered or something like that. And I almost like went into convulsions just by the last.
Yeah, it wasn't the other person. No. I saw it too, and I was almost hesitant, but I was like, no, it has a D in front of it, so I'm all right. So
it's like I had to think, I had to let it process. Like, okay, he did say D, so we're all right. But that's the only concern I have with Gardner. Darren Stingley Jr. is known as probably the best pure man-to-man cornerback in this draft, as far as just being able to cover guys, 6 feet, 195 pounds, runs a 4.40 in the 40-yard dash. Just has very fluid. He's very fluid, very agile, able to turn his hips and move and run with a wide receiver. The only issue I have with him is his best, most productive year came as a freshman in 2019, played 15 games, 15 passes, had 6 interceptions in that particular season. He didn't have an interception in 2020.
Jordan, your mic just did something.
Is it still bad?
It's like you're fading out a little bit.
Is it any better?
Keep going. Let's see if we can fix it.
I don't know what happened, but yes, what I was saying about Stingley.
Actually, let's do this. Let's take a break because right now it's hard to distinguish what you're saying, and it's right up against the hour anyway. So what we're going to be doing, folks, we're going to take a little bit of a break, a little bit of commercial break, as you might say, but not a commercial. We're going to be talking offense in a little bit. So we're going to be talking about all the offensive picks, whether it be wide receiver, running back, offensive line, and see what we're going to do there. We will discuss a little bit more on the quarterback side if you choose to want to listen to that. We'll see about that as far as that goes. But we're going to take a little bit of a break. Don't go anywhere. This is Chris and Jordan on IMTN Worldwide Radio for Around the ATL. This is our 2022 NFL draft show, and hopefully everybody's enjoying it. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
You are listening to Around the ATL with Chris and Jordan. We'll be right back with more Atlanta sports talk.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chris on Around the ATL on IMTM Worldwide Radio. We are back after our hour break. We are going into our second hour of the show. We're doing 2 hours of NFL draft talk right now. Very excited. We did not do a show the year before, but we have done shows the previous 2 years to that. So we wanted to try to make sure that we kept things going. Trying to get back regular. We haven't been on the air for a long time. Like literally this week is the first time we've done shows in months since January. Okay, so we're just now kind of getting back into the stream of things. So we definitely thank everybody who does watch and listen to the show because we have the radio show, of course, on Blog Talk Radio. We're airing that live right now at the same time. I'm doing both shows. And, of course, the YouTube channel, which is fairly new. So thanks to all those who have supported. Please subscribe to the page, IMTM Worldwide Radio, the YouTube channel. Definitely do that if you can. I appreciate that and that support. And, of course, you can follow myself and Jordan on Twitter right there, Intellect ATL or Jordan23 on Twitter. Jordan23 ATL, that is. Make sure you do that. Also on Instagram, IMTM Worldwide Radio on Instagram as well. This is probably Jordan right there. So we've been around this is going on our 4th year of being on the broadcast circuit, as you can tell. And we have had some great guests over the years. And that being said, tomorrow night, we have a special guest. The face of Hawks Live and Braves Live for the last 15 years, Jerome Durenovich, will be on the show tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. All right. Well, not tomorrow night. Friday. I forgot what day it was for a second. Friday night, because tomorrow's the NFL draft. But Friday evening at 7 o'clock, we're going to have Jerome Durenovich. I'm very excited about this particular interview because he's been the face of a broadcast that we've watched for a long time. And he's gotten to see so many great players come through the organizations over the years and headed up great broadcasts of very important games over the years. Now, he just recently retired last year, but he did get to see the Braves win the World Series, and he got his ring, too. I wish I had a ring. By the way, again, the shirt, thanks to the Originative brand. Make sure you go to their Instagram page and hit up Jamal and get you a shirt. Whether it be Hawks related, Falcons related, Braves related, United, he can make it for you. Okay. Atlanta Dream as well. Don't forget the Dream. We're going to be talking about the Dream soon on one of our next shows. So, but yeah, this is the Braves championship shirt from the Originative brand. I really like it. So just wanted to make sure I gave him a shout out. But we've been on the air for a long time. We've had all kind of different guests. Jerome is going to be our most recent one, and Friday night I'm going to announce our next guest, which is going to be next Thursday, but I'm going to leave that till Friday. But we've had some great guests over the years. We've had Dominique Wilkins on the show. We've had John Collins on the show. We've had Bob Rathbun of the show of the Atlanta Hawks, broadcasting for a long time, obviously over 20 years. Steve Holman, the Hall of Famer, has been on the show. We've had I've had Angel McCautry on the show, Olympic gold medalist, former Atlanta Dream basketball player. So we've just had a bevy of people on the show over a period of time, and I hope to continue that. So we'll see what happens. So 646-652-4479 is the number as we get ready to get started into our second half of the show, as I'm waiting for Jordan to come back. And we're going to start talking about offense. So the last hour, we primarily talked about Dean Pease and his scheme and how free agency might apply to the draft overall, and how that could affect what positions we actually go after per who we did get. But also we talked about how a lot of positions are going to be up for grabs per se. And so at this point, might as well go ahead and get the best player for each position that you can per each round. Because you never know, again, what's going to happen above you that's going to affect everything down below, right? And also you have all these UGA players that are floating around in cyberspace or in the meta world or whatever that have just won a national championship and they're really good. And all those players could really probably help us in the short term as well as long term. So we talked about all that, but now we're going to start talking about the offensive side of the ball. So again, this offseason, we had something we didn't know was going to happen, right? So Matt Ryan is no longer an Atlanta Falcon. And so one of the initial questions I asked was, what will be the impact of Matt not being here? And then who is the possible QB of the future for the Falcons? Now, in this particular case, since it's the draft, are we going to draft a quarterback or not? I still say no. Well, I still say no, not at 8. Now, we know that there is a long history of quarterbacks being picked not in the first round, not in the second round, maybe not even the third round, but in the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds and being really good. Well, we know one is a multi-Super Bowl champion in Tom Brady. So it can work, but you got to be able to work it. So would we actually still draft a quarterback or not? I don't know. I say no, because I still think that is not an immediate need at this point, just because of all the other facets that we really need to improve on for us to get a good quarterback at a certain point. Because if you don't fix these things now, it won't matter. We've seen what happened with a Hall of Fame quarterback where we have all these pieces not fixed. And what happened? We did not have good regular seasons, and we didn't get to the playoffs a whole heck of a lot. We don't want to do that with whoever that next possible replacement for Matt Ryan is, who's going to play the next 15 seasons possibly, and then not do anything because we didn't build the actual team like you're supposed to, like all the other franchises out there that are successful have done. You start with that line on the offensive side and the defensive side in the trenches. It pays to do that. You have the solid running game. You have great coach. I mean, what are the 5 things you need to have a successful franchise? You have to have an owner that wants to win and does what's necessary to win. You have to have a great general manager who makes wise decisions over a long period of time. You have to have a good to great coach. You have to have good to great players, and you have to be healthy. And guess what? Over the last 15, 20 years, we haven't had a whole bunch of that, have we? Just being real, right? And now you've completely changed everything by Matt Ryan is no longer a Falcon. So now you're really rebooting, but you were in the midst of not trying to reboot necessarily because of what the previous regime had done in regards to personnel and contracts and all that kind of good stuff, whatever. And then with players missing games for one reason or another, right? It's a lot. It's a lot to ask, but we did improve last year. We did improve last year. We did some things that the previous year wasn't even possible, right? So incrementally, we're getting better, but again, it's a drastic step back. Taking Matt away, can Marcus be adequate enough to keep things on the up and up, so to speak, depending on what other holes we are going to fill? Again, we do have Pitts here still. Right. So that's something, CP is still here. That's something positive. Again, I'm just looking at the positive side of things right now to try to get us back into playoff contention, because that has to be the goal. But do you do that with the 8th pick on the offensive side of the ball? Do you do anything offensive side of the ball at that 8th pick, or just in general, who are you looking at? Who would you want? So let's start that. Let's get my number back up here and check and see if anybody on the radio is holding. 646-652-4479 is the number. No, not yet. And it looks like Jordan is almost back, but I'm gonna wait until I actually see him. Let's check and see. Let's check and see. All right. See, I can't see. Give me his pause. All right, so 646-652-4479. And again, thanks for all who do support the show either now or later, of course, because people will watch this, after the fact and whatnot. So we do appreciate that support over time. Let's go ahead and try to see if we can bring him in. And not just yet. Cool. All right, so for me, I say no. You're not drafting a quarterback with our number 8th pick. There's no way you can put us in that kind of position to where you're using up your capital on a position right now where who some of the quarterbacks are that are out there. It's just so hit or miss. It's a how can I say this? It's hit or miss. That's what you got to say. Willis, can he be the guy? Maybe, but in our system, as we're constructed right now, right now we're not in a position to facilitate the grooming of a quarterback. I'll put it to you like that. If this was a different team where you already had a bona fide offensive line, you knew everything that was going to work there, and nobody was going to get hit ever again, and we actually had a bona fide running game where we're going to be able to average 4.5, 5.5 yards per carry to take the pressure off the quarterback. And we actually had more solidified receivers than Pitts. Then I would say, yeah, maybe go ahead and roll the dice and see what we can do. But that also goes into where our defense is going to be. All these things would have needed to be addressed already before we get in the quarterback, which is why I say next year is when you get that quarterback, right? So that's how I feel as far as the quarterback position on the offensive side. We'll see what Jordan actually does have an idea as far as what he would want to do. He does have a quarterback in mind. So when he comes back, we'll talk about that. I kind of want to wait for him because the next position would be running back, which again, we have some in camp already, well, camp hasn't started yet, but you know what I mean. So actually we have a caller. Is this him calling in? Let's see. Okay, that's just him. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead and tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, this is the co-host, Jordan. Check it back in. What's up, sir?
Hey, what's up, Jordan? Hey, by any means necessary, right?
Yeah, man. I don't know what happened. I was all clear, then all of a sudden, it's like the signal just scrambled where I was. And, being that this is around the ATL, I'm actually always somewhere around the ATL. This week, I'm coming to you from the beautiful Cascade area, southwest Atlanta, the SWAT.
Man, Cascade ain't Atlanta, man. Come on.
Oh, that's definitely Atlanta. At least this is the Cascade is Atlanta. Maybe when you go on the other side of Cascade, it's outside of the city limits. But, I don't subscribe to that anyway. If you're part of the Metro Atlanta, you're part of the Atlanta country, you're Atlanta to me. You know what I mean? With maybe a few exceptions. If Mike Davis don't play a little bit better this year, maybe he's not Atlanta. We talked about quarterbacks, man. I'm personally not a fan of any of the quarterbacks, and I think, that most of these quarterbacks that they're selected, you may see a protest outside of Flowery Branch, probably outside of Mercedes-Benz Stadium also. In particular, if they take a guy like, for example, Kenny Pickens, at number 8, I think fans would be very upset. Mainly because he's similar to the style quarterback we already had, maybe a little bit more mobile. But I think most of the fans, are pretty much have their heart set on getting a mobile quarterback. You know what I mean? Now, me personally, I believe the quarterback's first job is to distribute the football to the talent. But if he's mobile to escape a little pressure, that's pretty good too. So there is one quarterback I like in this draft, and that's Mr. Malik Willis, the quarterback out of Liberty. It's just always an interesting proposition when you're talking about taking a quarterback from a smaller school like that, because they didn't see SEC competition. They didn't see that type of, anything near the NFL speed on defense at that smaller school. But that doesn't mean that quarterback is not going to work out. Josh Allen went to a very, small school, the same division that Malik Willis played in. You know what I mean? And he is one of the absolute best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. So, with that being said, Malik Willis, not only is he a mobile quarterback, but he also has a big arm. He can throw that ball, 60 yards on the rope. If you had a chance to watch any of his combine workout stuff, I mean, on the move, turn, stop and pivot on the dime, and drop the ball 60 yards down the field right into the receiver's hands. And one of the other things I like about this kid is he's just a great character kid, man. I mean, just a very nice guy, competitive, but just a very nice guy, already doing stuff, community-wise, charity work, you know what I mean, even in college. I mean, and it was one situation where I think it was at the Combine, if I'm not mistaken, that he was seen just boxing some meals and, handing them out to some homeless people, and he didn't have no camera crew over watching him do it, you know what I mean? He just happened to get spotted doing it. It wasn't something that was set up for publicity. And so he checks all of the boxes, to be honest with you. I agree with you, Chris, that I would prefer that this team would probably stay away from quarterback one more year. I think this team needs to be built up among the trenches, offensive and defensive lines, as well as adding some more weapons in order to give this quarterback a chance, whoever the next quarterback is, a chance to be successful. Also like, next year's quarterback class overall better. But the fact of the matter is, Chris, it only takes for a GM to fall in love with one quarterback and that quarterback to be there. And there's a possibility that he'll be drafted. Every year we always see quarterbacks rise higher than what, everybody thought that they would be drafted as. So it wouldn't surprise me if they took a quarterback. I've also heard them connected to Matt Corral.
So, sorry about that, Jordan. I had to have a little emergency there. 646-652-4479. I definitely appreciate you bringing that up, because that was my whole point in regards to the quarterback situation and not being ready to have a quarterback here yet. We're not in that situation just yet. We're not blessed with enough talent to be competitive to bring in someone and then have them get either hurt because we can't protect them, or not be competitive and break their spirit because we're just terrible. Okay, that would be bad. Having a Hall of Fame quarterback and being able to maneuver all that is one thing. Having somebody who's not played in the NFL before is a totally different ball game. So next year, yeah, let's go for it. So we're going to see what happens sooner than later. Let's talk about running backs, because that's part of the game that can help. Say it again.
Before you move on, just to add, it's quarterback to learn up under, you know what I mean? So that's just a shame. I do agree with you that I think we should wait. But even if we were to take Malik Willis, you know, you can't start him in year one. I just don't think you can go from that level to start your first season. You know what I mean? That's not to say maybe that if he was here and things went awry and he showed to be a quick study that he couldn't start, you know, maybe the last 6 games or last 7 games of the season or something to that effect. But I definitely don't think that you throw him out there to the Wolves from day one, because you have seen that happen with quarterbacks. For example, David Carr, brother of Raiders quarterback Derek Carr, he was one of the best, you know, quarterback prospects of his time, number 1 overall draft pick. But I think the fact that he was sacked a record number of times his first 2 seasons for a rookie quarterback, it really messed him up. And I think it's what caused him to be kind of shell-shocked and see ghosts when it comes to, you know, thinking the pass rush was there that wasn't even there.
Yeah, there's not that many, you know, who are rookies who get to be put in that position. You know, Matt Ryan was one of them, obviously. He started from the jump. I believe, wasn't Joe Shiesty one? I believe he started off the bat, but he got beat up a little bit there. And, you know, there's some others over a period of time, but most, they do take a year or 2 to get in there. So I just don't think we're structured enough to do that just yet. But as I was about to mention, one of the things that could kind of help with that transition would be to have a running game. And so right now, with our running back situation as it is now, actually at the very beginning of the show, we talked about free agency and some of the moves that we've made, and one of them was at running back. But on the on the running back side of things, where do you think we might go? Because here's my idea. Of course, now you already know what's about to happen, right? James Cook. James Cook is UGA National Championship running back, right? So, and he would be probably available at a round where we'll have one of those available picks, because we have 2 third-round picks and 1 4th-round pick just in case. So he would be probably available, and he knocks off all the things that you would need as far as what we don't have right now. And I'll go ahead and be honest, he's going to be better than Mike Davis right off the bat by default. So on the running back side, that's just one of the guys that I was looking at. Now, there are some others I believe that could be viable. I think I picked out Tyler Badee from Missouri, Jerome Ford from Cincinnati, possibly. Well, he might be 5th round somewhere in there. But is there a guy, Jordan, that you think of where on the running side of the ball could really help this team be more dynamic, catching passes, but they can do the dirty work too. They can make sure that they catch their blocks. And then at the end of the day, they can fall forward. We get that extra yard when needed and just be there on a regular basis. Because, again, with Patterson being back and being another running back, but also might be put in that X factor mode, we're going to need somebody who we can rely on, who can make a move or two, too, to get their own yards if they have to, in case the offensive line is still not great. We need somebody, because all the other teams seem to have that person. We just never do for whatever reason. So James Cook is my guy. Who do you have?
Well, there's also another Georgia running back in the draft as well, Samir Zeus White, more of a power style back, 6 foot tall, 215 pounds, but he can move as well. Now, he has had some knee injuries in the past, but has been healthy, you know, the last couple of seasons, played very well for Georgia, averaged 5.3 yards per carry. And in 2019, not necessarily the best pass catcher, but I'm thinking that he has a little bit more ability than he's shown there. When you have a guy like James Cook that's an outstanding pass rushing back, you know, you got to kind of split the roles up. There are a lot of good backs in this draft, though. Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. He may be a little bit too early for my liking, because I really prefer to load up on, you know, the trenches and corner and positions like that in the first 3 rounds. But he could possibly slip into the 4th round, and I wouldn't have any problem with taking him, you know, in the 4th round or somewhere like that. Other guys who I like in this draft, oh gosh, now my stuff is messing up, but Give me 1 second, Chris. Oh, Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M. Another guy that's got a pretty good blend of speed and power. I watched their game when they beat Alabama, gave Alabama their only regular season loss. He was outstanding in that game against Alabama's defense. Was really impressive to me in that regard. Also, let's see who else I had on here. I had a sleeper at running back here. Here we go. Rashaan White out of Arizona State is a guy who I like. What I saw on film, very quick, very agile. Guy who I think ran a 4.4, 8.40. So a guy who I think can take it to the house. I need to verify this 40 time on Samir White because when I just looked, it said he ran a 4.4. I
saw that too, and I tried to go to a couple of different sites to see if it was different somewhere else, but I'm like, well, if that's the truth, I mean, you
right.
might have to think about that a little bit there. So,
right. So I hate to be that guy to mention all UGA guys, but I mean, we really just had that much talent in the draft, and that's like I say. That's not to say there aren't other guys. Another guy, you could be a late round option. Kenny Brooks, running back out of Oklahoma. Didn't really get utilized a lot in the passing game, but showed a lot of good power in the run game, a lot of ability in the run game. Some people say he should have went back to school, but like I said, there again, if he's there 6th round, something like that. Because one of the things about running back, that is one of the positions that if you find the right guy that fits your blocking scheme, you can have success from a 6th round draft pick. 49ers started running back last season, Elijah Mitchell out of Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss. I'll tell you what, I mix up whether players are from Ole Miss or Miss State all the time. I'm pretty sure it's Ole Miss, though. And he did very well. 6th round draft pick. Became the starter after their regular starter got hurt and was a force for them. So I don't really want to spend too premium on a pick on running back, but I definitely think that there are a lot of, sleepers out there that could really help this football team. We definitely need to get one.
Yeah, I think 646-652-4479 is the number, of course. I think we have to, just on the basis of, I just don't see how you go another season with either, do you believe in these guys that you got? Are you going to play them or not? Are you going, what's going to happen? Because they're on the roster a period of time, and it's like somebody else needs to come in and do something, because we have to get some kind of a constant running game going again to be competitive. Because again, Marcus Mariota or whatever, tomato, whatever, but he's not going to survive that long if we can't run the ball at all, because again, everybody's going to be going by what we did the previous year, and we didn't really run the ball last year either. So we know what happened with Matt. So Marcus is not Matt. So we gotta figure out something on that end, which in that case, unless you have some other running backs to speak of, there is a very important thing that we have to try to figure out sooner than later, and that's the offensive line. Okay, so at this point, we know I don't even really want to mention the names of the deficiencies. I really don't want to go there. I saw this one picture of somebody bulking up apparently, and I'm like, how come you didn't bulk up last year? Well, okay, cool, whatever. But on the offensive side, now this is where your draft picks are really going to come into play a little bit, to say between 4th, 5th, and 6th, where do you have some offensive linemen end up falling? Because there are actually some really good offensive linemen in this particular draft. Okay, so I'll let you start first in this case, as far as, are there any offensive linemen, whether it be on the tackle side or otherwise, that you think could be viable to plug and play right off the bat? Because one thing I will say, we need to be able to get an offensive lineman that's otherwise that you think could be viable that's ready to play. Am I still on? What happened there? That was. Good evening, everybody. What's going on?
Until showtime.
Jordan, are you still on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just figured out what happened. That was kind of scary, folks. We're live still. I'm trying to do 2 shows at the same time with the radio and the live video on YouTube, and I don't know what happened there, but I think I'm back. So I forgot my thought. So you go ahead, Jordan, as I try to fix it.
Actually, sir, there are 3 offensive linemen that I feel like are worth considering at the number 8th pick. Honestly, now obviously I don't expect all 3 still to be there at number 8. Somebody's going to take a tackle above us. Could be 2 of them gone above us. But Evan Neal out of Alabama is one guy. I mean, just a massive offensive tackle. 300. Let me pull up the exact numbers, but 350-pound guy. Very good run blocker, but also holds his arm. Very agile for a guy of his size. Yeah, 6'8", 350 pounds. Like I said, not necessarily a fast guy, but able to move his feet well to cut off speed rushers. I do think he may have a little issue with the best speed rushers in the NFL if you put him in there right away. But I do think he's going to be a good football player. And for both of these top 2 tackles, they're bigger guys. And so I think that they have the added bonus. Obviously, I don't think you want to take an interior lineman that high, but if these guys don't work out like you want them to at tackle, I think either one of them could be outstanding guards. The second one is Iguanu out of North Carolina State, 6'4". This has him listed at 320, but I've seen him listed as high as around 330, 335. Like I said, very big guy. This guy is a power blocker in the run game. I mean, if he latches onto you, he will carry your defensive end 15 yards down the field with the play, and still be blocking him if the whistle hasn't blown. And this guy, he has a bit of a mean streak about him, which is never a bad thing when you talk about an offensive lineman and the guy is needed to protect your quarterback. So he's another guy I think that's worth taking. And the third guy is Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. 6'5", a little bit lighter than those guys at 310 pounds, but I think he's the best of the 3 as far as just a pure pass blocker, a guy that can move and cut off speed rushers. If anything, he'll probably have to adjust more to some of the bull rushers, being a lighter guy as opposed to the speed rushers. I think he can hold his own at that from day one. So either one of those guys would be worthy of consideration. Like I said, I don't expect all 3 to be there, but I think any one of them could possibly be there depending on what other team is looking for in a tackle or offensive lineman. And so I wouldn't be mad at all if one of those picks at number 8. Go right ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say 646-652-4479. I was just waiting for you to give me somebody who's like 375 pounds or somebody. Because again, if I see one more drafted player who's like 297 pounds, I'm going to go crazy. So if you're going to pick that high offensive line, it got to be the best of the bunch for sure. On my end, I would say I wasn't thinking about that high necessarily. I saw a few who not so much stood out, but just on the basis of where they might be in the draft. So I saw Tyler Smith from Tulsa, of course UGA. Now I'm kind of not, let's see, speculative of him, Jamari Saylor from UGA.
I like him.
Okay, so there's some things I read. I was like, I don't know, but with right coaching, he could be the man, right? And then one more person, I believe I'm pronouncing this right, Vamadele Omasini from Utah. Pretty big guy there. Because again, I'm just looking at strength and power. I'm not going to sing the rock song. I might get sued. But I'm looking at it from that standpoint alone, almost to where, like you mentioned it, the mean streak part. You're supposed to protect your quarterback. If he's on the ground, somebody put him on the ground. You need to do something about that next play, right? And you also need to make sure you get the quarterback up off the ground. What are you doing, sir? So we need to be able to have that element because we really haven't had that in a few years for sure. Because we used to have some grimy guys, but they're all gone. Right. So we need to be able to replace those guys at this point and then accentuate what we do have, because we do have some guys who are pretty decent. There are some minor improvements in certain places during the season as adjustments were made. but we really need to get this finalized because, again, like you said, next year we might be drafting that quarterback of the future. Go ahead.
Yes, the thing about Jamari Sawyer, I like Jamari, but my thing with Jamari, I don't like him as a tackle. Now, he played some everywhere at UGA, tackle and guard, but I think in the NFL, his best position is going to be guard. But he's a powerful man, another guy who doesn't mind mixing it up, you know what I mean? So
that's why I picked him out.
Right. So I'd have no problem taking him. I wouldn't take him at number 8 or anything like that.
Oh, no. This was later in the rounds, yeah.
Right. Later in the rounds, I'd have no problem drafting Jamari to play guard. A couple of other tackles I had that were kind of sleeper type guys was Darren Canard out of Kentucky. Another guy that's got a little bit of weight on him, 324 pounds, 6'5". Like I said, played that SEC football. And the guy by real sleeper at offensive tackle. And shout out to our guy who's been on the show before, Kevin Keneally, because he put me onto this guy and he showed me some tape. And his name is Abraham Lucas out of Washington State. 6'6", 322 pounds. He's another guy. He's just a massive blocker, and he's one of those guys. Say it again.
I say he sounds scary.
He's one of those guys. Is what they say plays to the echo of the whistle. And in fact, in one of the tapes that the film that our guy Kevin Keneally showed me, he, like I was just talking about with the guy from North Carolina State, there's literally film of him taking a guy and carrying him about 15 yards down the field, you know what I mean? And then just putting him into the dirt. And then shortly after the whistle blows. And so those guys with those mean, nasty streaks that also have the size, but also have the agility are the type of guys I like. I'm thinking somewhere around 3rd or 4th round for Lucas. But what I saw on film, I wouldn't be surprised if he snuck up to the 2nd round with some team. Because if I like what I saw, some scout had to like it too. So I wouldn't be mad if we took him with one of our 2nd round picks if we don't go tackle in the first, at number 8. So there's definitely a lot of good options at the offensive line spot. I think we need a tackle and a guard per se. I mean, honestly, the center is very good as well. The top center, Tyler Lindenbaum, he's not the biggest. Make sure he's not the biggest lineman in the world, but he's a tactician. He kind of reminds you a lot of Chris Lindstrom. In fact, just the fact that he's just solid technique, always has his hands in the right place. I said Lindstrom. Did I say Lindstrom? I said Tyler Lindenbaum is his name. Very much like Chris Lindstrom. And if I'm not mistaken, Chris Lindstrom has a brother in this draft too, if I'm not mistaken as well. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be too messed up if they picked him because, that could work possibly. What I'm looking at more so than anything, though, is just, again, protection and the run game. And can you get those in sync? Plus, with our second year with Smith there and running his offense, can we, again, plug and play enough to where, again, we thought we were going to have Matt. We don't. So that does change some things there as far as the plan. But with a competent quarterback at the very least, and we get some pieces around him, you can make any quarterback look like a Super Bowl winning quarterback because there's plenty of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks out there like Nick Foles and a whole bunch of others who didn't have to do a whole heck of a lot, just not make mistakes, and everything else can take care of itself. Or that last year of Peyton Manning with the broken neck almost, right? Or all the other quarterbacks who didn't have the greatest Super Bowls of all time, but the rest of the team did, right? And if we can start getting towards that, then we'll be much better as a team overall. So, again, O-line is definitely something. Will we pick 2 offensive linemen in the draft? I don't know. That might be – it's possible. We have enough picks to do it technically and still get our defensive players. So, I think it could happen. So, we're going to find out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think you take too high, but I do think that it's a good idea to take at least one tackle and one guard. And I don't want to just mention the tackles because I know that's the more – if you can call anything on the offensive line glamorous, that would be considered a more glamorous position, especially left tackle. But there are some very good guards in this draft. Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M, another SEC guy, 6'4", 320 pounds. He has played some tackle as before wasn't terrible when he played tackle, but when they moved him to guard, he really took off and played his best football. Zion Johnson, guard out of Boston College, 6'3", 314 pounds, not as big a guy, but very, very talented guy. The one guy he mainly struggled with, though, was my guy Jermaine Johnson, who I mentioned as a pass rusher. He did do a number on Zion Johnson, but other than that, he played very well. You got Luke Goldke out of Central Michigan, 6'5", 318 pounds. And I don't know what it is for some reason, but Central Michigan always seems to put out some pretty, decent offensive line prospects. And I can't talk about guards without doing it again. We do have another Georgia Bulldog that's a candidate at the guard position, and that's Justin Schaefer, 6'4", 326 pounds. Run blocking is his specialty. He likes to maul guys in the run game. He will need some work, when it comes to refining his pass blocking technique. But, I say around the 4th or 5th round, if you took a guy like that, wouldn't be disappointed at all. At least that he's been coached up right and at least knows about how to give the right effort because, Kirby Smart, he doesn't even play. If you don't not that effort type guy, you're not going to play for Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
Not very long.
Man, I swear the Bulldogs need to be sponsoring us tonight. I tell you. So that being said, we're going to get into our last subject matter as far as this the preview of the draft for tomorrow. We're going to talk about some wideouts. And I went on and played the music because guess what? I'm going to mention another UGA Bulldog. His name is George Pickens. I believe this is a player where, again, Calvin is not here and probably won't ever be again. We still really, with Pitts being here, is he the pseudo replacement for Julio or is Pitts just Pitts, right? Because now we technically got to replace Calvin. So do we get a wide receiver on that basis or are we just getting a fill-in? Because right now, let me go ahead and pull up. This is who we have as far as our wideouts on the current roster as on the schedule right now. So Damiere Byrd, Frank Darby, Chad Hansen. I don't even know who that is. Wait a minute. Is that Cordell Hodge, Auden Tate, Austin Trammell, and Zacchaeus is here. And that's it. Okay, so I guess I answered my own question right there. Yeah, we need to draft a wide receiver because more than likely a few of these people, these guys, these players, unfortunately, are not going to be here at the start of the season. So I feel that in this case, we do need to fill a need because, again, you didn't anticipate all that was happening with Calvin to have transpired, right? And we got to be able to get somebody on that field to where Kyle Pitts is not going to get triple teamed basically every snap. That kind of has to stop. And even with CP being here, and he's not going to be playing all snaps at wide receiver. It'd be different if it was him and Pitts lined up all the time and a third guy, but that's not going to be the case. Most of the time, Patterson's going to be in that backfield as of right now. Again, depending on how things pan out. So I think definitely a wide receiver has to be a viable option. As far as where you pick them at, not sure. But besides Pickens, you do have I picked out a couple of other guys. David Bell out of Purdue. And although I know I'm not supposed to do this, I know we said we would never do it again. I'm gonna go ahead and play it to myself.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Maybe we should think about John Mechie from Bama. I'm gonna just go ahead and throw it out there, just for the heck of it. I don't know, but he's on the radar a little bit just because of the principle of it all. But who do you have, Jordan, in regards to possible wideouts for the Falcons in the draft?
You mentioned the Alabama receivers, and I know, that's the prevailing thing around here. Falcons will never need to take another Alabama receiver, but I can't deny I like both of the Alabama receivers in this draft. Now, I do believe Jameson will go in the first round. Jameson Williams will go in the first round, but he did tear his ACL or what have you, so if he would have somehow fall into one of those second round picks, I couldn't be mad with him because I think he has the opportunity to be the best wide receiver in this draft. I mean, let's be honest here. And I hate
this
to admit
draft,
it. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. And I hate to admit it, but it's okay now because we got him back. But that first football game in the SEC title game, that kid ate our lunch, man. I mean, he was smoking us like big time. So I wouldn't be mad at all. Also, do like me, John Meachie, like you said, very polished guy. Another guy I like is another SEC kid, Traylon Burks out of Arkansas. You know, may still be a little bit too high to I really want to go for a receiver, but if he was there with maybe our second round pick or third round pick, and they felt like he was the best player available, you know, how can you be mad with that? As you mentioned, George Pickens, definitely a guy I wouldn't mind taking second or third round. Honestly, you know, he's just a legend for throwing Georgia Tech players in the walls anyway, to be honest with you. But he does have the talent. He's able to go up a high point of football, has very good body control. Guy, you can throw a jump ball, you know, into the end zone, and he can go get it. Now, if you're looking for more of a smaller guy that you can play in the slot, you know, undersized guy, we got guys like that, but I don't think that the guys we have are as dynamic as Waddell Robinson, wide receiver out of Kentucky, only 5'8", but runs a 4.4 40. You know, a guy that you could give the jet sweep to, a guy that you could throw the screen passes to, a guy that could give those option routes to in the slot, and he's going to be able to get separation over his on his man most of the time, and possibly turn a 5-yard pass into a 25-yard gain. It's a lot of wide receiver talent in this draft, to be honest with you. It just depends on where we want to go. Obviously, you know, I think we got to take at least one wide receiver with our picks, just for what you read, you know, on that depth chart. It just depends on, you know, I guess where your board is at the time, you know what I mean, and who else is on the board, as opposed to where you go with wide receivers. I really don't have a problem taking wide receiver anywhere with exception of number 8 and probably the first pick of the second round. I really don't want to mess with receiver there, unless maybe Jameson Williams, if he falls there, I could see it being worth it. But other than that, I think, you know, after those 2 picks, I won't really be upset at all if they take, you know, a dynamic receiver with one of those picks.
646-652-4479 as we get close to wrapping up the show tonight. Definitely, again, that's why I had to read who we had, because you had to actually hear it, you know, to be like, man, this is where we at right now. And again, and again, we didn't know Matt was not going to be here. If Matt was here, it might be a little bit different because Matt is Matt and he's going to get the ball to whoever. And if we were able to improve some of those other spots, you never know. We might have a breakout star of some sort, but not with Marcus back there. We need to get somebody else to help out right now. So go ahead, Jordan. You got another point?
Well, one other guy, too, who I forgot to mention, he didn't necessarily have the best college career, having some injury issues, but he did show some flashes, and that's Justin Ross out of Clemson, a big 6'4", 205-pound wide receiver, one of those jump ball type guys you can throw it up to. And this guy, he was a very high recruit coming out of high school. Like I said, he just had some issues. In fact, he had a spinal injury, I think, his freshman year, but was able to, you know, bounce back from it. So, you know, if he's a guy that's there in maybe 6th round or something like that, you know, he coming out of high school, he had 1st round type talent or 2nd round type talent. So I certainly wouldn't mind seeing the Falcons take a flyer, you know, on a guy like that late in the rounds either. But as I said, so much talent in this draft overall, and you know, obviously the way things have gone, you know, over the last few years, my focus has been on SEC football, ACC football, you know, the bigger college ball. I haven't had the opportunity to just sit around, you know, on a Saturday like I used to and watch, you know what I mean, Boise State versus Colorado State. So I'm certainly there's some, you know, some very good football players that I'm not mentioning, you know what I mean, that we also see selected as well.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be exciting. We've been waiting for this for a while. You know, we've been talking on offline, where it just seems like this has been the longest period of time up to the draft of all time. And it's just strange. And now we're finally here. So we you know, we needed this to happen. obviously, but it's going to be exciting. You know, this is a new regime officially now with Matt not being here, and how we pick up pieces from not having him be able to go out in style, like you said. He should have had a ring here, and the organization didn't do right by Matt Ryan, and now he's over at an organization that basically gave him a whole team. You know, so now we're going to find out, is that who we think he is? Some of us. Or not, you know, but a lot of stuff still has to happen, but he's definitely on a better team than he was here. So at least he has that to go off of, you know, into the sunset proverbially. But we're going to see what we can do as Falcons this year. I feel with, you know, Pease and Smith, they do have something cooking. They do have pride in what they're doing. They do have demands of excellence. And, you know, they're taking what was given to them, and they're going to work it out. And that is a lot more than what we had the couple of years before, because we kind of like, I don't want to get into the Hawks talk that much, but we had a system that couldn't adjust ever, you know, and we had to sit and take it. And we would have leads and nothing would adjust. We would have deficits and nothing would adjust. And it was year after year and game after game. And finally, too late, you get rid of that. And it's like, now, but look at what has happened since then. You know, if that had been changed way long ago, we'd be in a better position, obviously. So it's going to be a fun night. And, you know, we do have picks. And, you know, every draft has that surprise. And, again, it's going to be who is the Jags, right, who has the number one pick, right?
Yes.
You never know. Jags. So
I'll tell you, I'll make a prediction. The Jags are going to take Trayvon Walker number 1 overall. That's my prediction. You know what I mean? And I could be wrong with that, but something tells me what they're going to see what I saw on film, and they're just going to be like, wow. Even though this guy didn't have 15 sacks, like, this guy is just incredible on film. We can't pass this guy up. And so that'll be my prediction for their pick. Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall, UGA.
That's going to be something right there if that goes down. So that being said, everyone, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. I'm glad that, you know, we were able to get on the air. So those who are listening on Blog Talk Radio, appreciate it. Those who will end up watching the YouTube, definitely appreciate it. Of course, make sure you follow on YouTube, IMTN Worldwide Radio, the channel, and subscribe. And then also follow us on Twitter, Intellect ATL, and also Jordan23 at ATL, and the show page, IMTN Radio on Twitter as well. Follow on Instagram, IMTN Worldwide Radio as well. Remember, it is Wednesday still. Friday at 7 o'clock, we have our interview with Jerome Durenovich, the legend. He recently retired. He is the face of Braves Live and Hawks Live for over 15 years. Multiple Emmy-winning journalist for the Atlanta market. So we're
40 years in sports media.
Overall, yeah, definitely. He knows everything to know of everything. So we're going to try to dig in and maybe get some secrets and start some controversies, as we like to do sometimes. I didn't tell him that yet, but he's going to find out. So that's Friday at 7 o'clock. So definitely share and make sure everybody that you know who loves watching him on TV over the years. You know, he got his ring too, by the way. Don't forget that. We're gonna make sure, hopefully he'll wear it. Actually, well, I don't know if he's gonna be on camera or not, but we'll kind of find that out. He kind of asked about that the other day. I forgot to tell you that. But anyway, that's another story. So anyway, Jerome Durenovich will be on, and Friday we'll be announcing another interview that we'll have next week that's going to be pretty cool as well. So Jordan, any final thoughts before we get ready to sign off for tonight?
I got a couple things real quick.
Go ahead.
Number one, y'all lay off of my point guard. Okay, lay off of my star point guard. Kobe without help failed. Michael Jordan without help failed. Pretty much every Allen Iverson failed without help. LeBron James failed without help. Pretty much every great star has failed without help, and pretty much every great star has failed before they have succeeded, with the exception of Magic Johnson, who was Finals MVP his rookie year. Lay off my point guard. Number two, coach, call timeout sometimes. Okay? Call timeout. And why are you saving a challenge when you can't take it in all season with you and the guy who's making all the shots just fouled out? Okay, that's all I got to say on that. The next thing, man, let me look close in the camera on this. Terry Fontenot, I know you're listening. 2 Georgia Bulldogs, sir. I need at least 2. Okay. If I don't get at least 2, then I'm gonna have to start calling you undercover brother and a Saint if I don't get at least 2. So with that being said, sir, that's all I have. Always thank everybody for listening to the show. We certainly is always a blast, Chris, to do the show with you. And last but not least, as I always end the show, I gotta thank God for giving me this air that I breathe to talk about these Atlanta and these Georgia sports that I love. A-Town down.
All right, guys. So we're going to be on the air much more regular, and we're excited about that. We're pushing. This tonight is our second show this week. Friday is going to be our third, and then we're going to take a break. But then we're going to come back again with even more shows. So be looking out. Again, it's been a while to where we've been regular, and I know we've lost a lot of fans just because we just haven't been on. And most of the whys or whatnot. We'll bring it up again maybe another time. But again, thanks for all who do support and watch and everything. And we'll be on again real soon. That being said, y'all take care. Peace. Thank you.